This is my true story. During a family dinner, my husband told everyone that I could not give him a child. He said it like it was a fact, like my body was broken. His mother nodded and said some women are just not built for it. The whole table agreed with him. They looked at me with pity. I sat there humiliated while they comforted him. But today, the fertility report arrived in the mail. I opened it with shaking hands, and what I found changed everything. The real problem was not me. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me where you are watching from and subscribe. We were having dinner at his parents' house like we did every Sunday. His mom always cooked a big meal and invited the whole family. His parents, his siblings, his aunt and uncle, sometimes cousins. It was always crowded and loud. I usually enjoyed these dinners, but tonight felt different. His aunt was there, the one who always asked invasive questions and never knew when to stop talking. We were halfway through the meal when she looked at me with that nosy smile she always had. She asked when we were going to give them grandchildren. It was not the first time someone asked this question. His family asked all the time. Usually my husband would laugh it off or change the subject. But tonight, he did not do that. Tonight, he sighed really loud like he was exhausted. Then he said something that made my blood run cold. He said, "Well, she cannot give me a child, so we are still waiting." He said it so casually, like he was commenting on the weather, like he was stating a simple fact that everyone should just accept. I felt my fork slip from my fingers and clatter against my plate. Everyone at the table turned to look at me. I could feel their eyes on me, judging me, pitying me. My face went hot with embarrassment and shame. I opened my mouth to say something, but no words came out. What was I supposed to say? How was I supposed to defend myself when he just announced to his entire family that my body was broken? His mother did not look surprised at all. She actually nodded like she suspected this all along. She reached over and patted his hand like he was the victim here. She said she figured as much and that some women just are not built for having children. The way she said it made me feel like I was defective, like there was something fundamentally wrong with me. His aunt agreed and said it was such a shame. His sister suggested we look into adoption since I clearly could not have my own children. His father told my husband not to give up hope, that maybe medical science could fix me. Fix me. Like I was a broken machine that needed repair. They all talked about me like I was not sitting right there at the table with them. Like I was not a person with feelings who could hear every word they said. My husband just sat there, accepting their sympathy, accepting their comfort, playing the role of the disappointed husband whose wife could not give him what he wanted. He did not correct them, did not tell them we had not even been tested yet, did not tell them we had no idea whose body was the problem. He just let them assume it was me, let them blame me, let them make me into the family failure. I excused myself from the table, said I needed to use the bathroom, walked down the hallway and locked myself in, stared at my reflection in the mirror and tried not to cry. We had been trying to have a baby for 2 years. 2 years of negative pregnancy tests, 2 years of disappointment every single month, 2 years of hoping and failing. At first, it was just bad luck. That is what we told ourselves. It takes time. Not everyone gets pregnant right away. But after a year passed with no success, I started to worry. I suggested we see a doctor, get some tests done, figure out if there was a medical reason we were not conceiving. But my husband refused. He said we just needed to relax. That stress was probably the problem. That if we stopped trying so hard, it would happen naturally. He said his family was very fertile and men on his side never had problems. He said it must be something with me, my stress levels, my job, my diet, maybe my age even though I was only 31. He never said it directly at first, never came out and blamed me, but he dropped hints, made comments, planted seeds of doubt in my mind. When I had a stressful week at work, he would say, maybe that is why it is not happening. When I ate junk food, he would mention how diet affects fertility. When I stayed up late, he would talk about how sleep is important for hormone balance. Slowly over time, I started to believe him. Started to think maybe it really was my fault. Maybe my body was the problem. Maybe I was too stressed or too unhealthy or too something. I started changing everything about my life trying to fix whatever was wrong with me. I quit drinking coffee, started eating organic, took vitamins, did yoga, went to bed early, cut back hours at work. I did everything possible to make my body more fertile. But still, nothing happened. Still, every month the pregnancy test came back negative. And every month I felt like more of a failure. My husband would comfort me when I cried, but there was always this undertone, this suggestion that if I just tried harder or did things differently, maybe it would work. He made me feel like I was the reason our family was not growing, like I was letting him down, disappointing him, failing at the most basic thing a woman should be able to do. I carried that shame with me everywhere. It became part of how I saw myself. The woman who could not have a baby, the wife who could not give her husband what he wanted. And his family made it worse. His mother would make comments about how I worked too much. His sister would suggest I try this diet or that supplement. His aunt would tell stories about women who got pregnant after they finally relaxed and stopped trying. Everyone had an opinion about what I was doing wrong. And I listened to all of it, tried all of it, blamed myself for all of it. Never once did anyone suggest maybe my husband should get tested too. Never once did anyone consider that maybe the problem was not me. After that horrible dinner, where he humiliated me in front of his entire family, I could not take it anymore. I needed to know the truth. I needed actual medical proof of what was wrong with me instead of just assumptions and blame. So 3 weeks after that dinner, I made an appointment with a fertility specialist without telling my husband. I took a day off work and drove to the clinic alone. The doctor was kind and patient. She asked me questions about my cycle and my health history and how long we had been trying. She asked if my husband had been tested, and I told her no. She looked surprised, but did not push. She said we should start with me and go from there. They did every test imaginable. Blood work to check my hormone levels. Ultrasounds to look at my ovaries and uterus, tests for thyroid function and vitamin deficiencies. They checked everything. The appointment took hours. I sat in that cold exam room in a paper gown feeling vulnerable and scared. Part of me was convinced they would find something terribly wrong, that all the tests would confirm what my husband and his family believed, that my body was broken and defective and unable to have children. The doctor said it would take about 2 weeks to get all the results back. 2 weeks of waiting and wondering and worrying. I went home that day and did not tell my husband where I had been. He did not ask. He never really paid attention to my schedule anyway. Those 2 weeks were torture. Every day I waited for the phone to ring, waited for the clinic to call and tell me the bad news. At night, I would lie awake imagining what the doctor would say, imagining all the ways my body had failed. My husband continued making his little comments during those 2 weeks. One night, I ordered pizza instead of cooking, and he said maybe that is why we are having trouble. Another time, I stayed late at work, and he said I needed to prioritize what was really important. Every comment felt like a knife. Every suggestion that I was the problem made me hate myself a little more. But I did not say anything, just nodded and agreed and tried to be better. Part of me thought maybe he was right. Maybe once the tests came back and confirmed I was infertile, he would finally feel justified in all his blame, finally have proof that he was right all along. I started planning in my head what I would do when the doctor confirmed the worst. Would I suggest adoption like his sister said? Would I agree to fertility treatments, even though they were expensive and painful? Would I just accept that I would never be a mother? The waiting was horrible, but finally, after 2 weeks, that felt like 2 years. I came home from work and found an envelope in the mailbox. It was from the fertility clinic. My hands shook as I pulled it out. This was it. This was the moment I would finally know the truth about my broken body. I stood there in the driveway holding the envelope. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely tear it open. Part of me did not want to open it at all. Did not want to see the proof that I was the problem, that my body was defective like everyone believed. But I needed to know, needed to face whatever was written on that paper. I ripped open the envelope and pulled out the results. Started reading. At first, the medical terms did not make sense. Too many big words and numbers and ranges, but then I got to the summary at the bottom. The part written in plain language so patients could understand. It said all reproductive functions normal, no abnormalities detected, excellent ovarian reserve for my age, hormone levels within healthy range, uterine lining appropriate, fallopian tubes clear, no barriers to conception identified. I read it 3 times, then a 4th time, then a 5th. My brain could not process what I was reading. Normal. Everything was normal. There was nothing wrong with me. Nothing wrong with my body. No medical reason I could not get pregnant. I sat down right there on the front steps of our house. The paper was trembling in my hands. Tears started running down my face, but I was not sad. I was angry, furious. For 2 years, I believed I was broken. For 2 years, I blamed myself. For 2 years, I changed everything about my life trying to fix a problem that did not exist. And my husband let me. He let me believe I was defective. Let me carry all that shame and guilt. Let his family treat me like a failure when he had no proof, no test results, no medical reason to blame me. He just decided it must be me and made everyone else believe it too. I sat there on those steps as the sun started setting and everything clicked into place. If my results were perfect and we still were not getting pregnant after 2 years, then the problem was not me. The problem was him. My husband was the one with fertility issues. He was the reason we could not have a baby, and he knew it. Or at least he suspected it. That is why he refused to get tested. Why he said it was unnecessary. Why he insisted men in his family did not have those problems. He was hiding, avoiding, blaming me instead of facing the possibility that he was the one with the problem. I stood up and walked into the house. My husband was sitting on the couch watching television like it was any normal evening. Like he had not spent 2 years destroying my self-worth. Like he had not humiliated me in front of his entire family. Like everything was fine. I walked over and stood in front of the TV, blocking his view. He looked up at me, annoyed that I was interrupting his show. I dropped the fertility results in his lap. Told him I got tested. Told him I was perfectly fertile. Told him there was nothing wrong with me. Then I said the words that made his face go white. I said now it was his turn to get tested. The color drained from his face as he looked down at the papers in his lap. He picked them up and started reading them, but his hands were shaking. I could see panic in his eyes. Real fear. He looked up at me and tried to laugh it off. Said one test did not mean anything. Said different doctors have different standards. Said maybe we should get a second opinion before jumping to conclusions. I crossed my arms and said no. The results were clear. My body was working perfectly. So if I was not the problem, then he needed to get tested to find out what was going on. He started making excuses immediately. Said he was too busy with work to schedule appointments. Said fertility testing for men was embarrassing and invasive. Said it was probably just bad timing and we should keep trying naturally. Said there was no point in spending money on tests when we could just be patient. Every excuse sounded weaker than the last. I could see right through him now. See the fear and shame he was trying to hide. He did not want to get tested because he already knew. Deep down, he knew he was the problem. That is why he blamed me so aggressively. That is why he refused testing for 2 years. That is why he made me feel broken and defective. Because if everyone believed it was my fault, then no one would look at him. No one would question his fertility. No one would think less of him. I told him he had 1 week, 7 days to schedule an appointment and get a semen analysis done. If he refused, I was filing for divorce. And before I filed, I would send my test results to his mother, to his sister, to his aunt, to everyone at that dinner who sat there and agreed I was defective. I would make sure they all knew the truth, that I was perfectly healthy and capable of having children. And the only reason we did not have a baby was because of him. His face went from white to red. He stood up and started yelling. Said I was being dramatic and unreasonable. Said I was trying to humiliate him. Said a good wife would not threaten him like this. I laughed at that. asked him if a good husband would publicly blame his wife for something that was not her fault. If a good husband would let his family mock and pity his wife. If a good husband would spend 2 years making his wife believe she was broken. He had no answer for that. Just stood there looking angry and scared and caught. I walked to our bedroom and locked the door. He could sleep on the couch. I was done sleeping next to a man who cared more about his ego than my dignity. Over the next few days, he tried everything. He apologized and said he was sorry for how he handled things. He brought me flowers and said we could go to counseling. He promised to be better and more supportive. But I did not budge. I told him every day how many days he had left. 6 days, 5 days, 4 days. He needed to get tested or I was done. On the 4th day, he finally broke. He came home from work and told me he scheduled an appointment at a fertility clinic for the next morning. His voice was quiet and defeated. He would not look me in the eyes. I nodded and said good. The next morning, he left early for his appointment. I did not go with him, did not offer support or comfort. He made me go through my testing alone so he could do the same. He was gone for a few hours, and when he came back home, he went straight to the bedroom and closed the door. Did not talk to me, did not tell me how it went, just hid. The clinic said results would take about a week. That week was tense and silent. We barely spoke to each other. He knew what was coming. I could see it in the way he avoided me, in the way he could not meet my eyes, in the way he seemed smaller somehow, defeated. 1 week later, an envelope arrived from the men's fertility clinic. It was addressed to him, but I did not care. I opened it, read the results, and there it was in black and white medical terminology. Severe male factor infertility, low sperm count, poor sperm motility, abnormal morphology. The report said his condition was likely genetic and had probably been present his entire adult life. It said natural conception would be extremely difficult, if not impossible, without medical intervention. It said he should have been tested years ago. I read that report 3 times, just like I read mine. But this time, I was not scared or sad. I was vindicated, justified, proven right. For 2 years, he made me believe I was the reason we could not have a baby. For 2 years, he blamed my body and my stress and my lifestyle. For 2 years, he let me feel like a failure. And the entire time, it was him. His body was the problem, not mine. I walked into the bedroom where he was lying on the bed, staring at the ceiling. I dropped his results next to him on the bed. Told him I opened them. Told him I read everything. He did not say anything, just closed his eyes like he wished he could disappear. I asked him if he knew, if he suspected all along that he was the problem. He was quiet for a long time. Then finally he nodded, said he thought maybe something was wrong, said that is why he did not want to get tested, said he was scared of finding out the truth, said it was easier to blame me than face his own inadequacy. I asked him how he could do that to me, how he could watch me suffer and blame myself and hate my own body when he knew it might be him, how he could humiliate me in front of his family, how he could let his mother call me defective, how he could be so cruel. He started crying, said he was sorry, said he was ashamed and scared and did not know how to handle it, said he never meant to hurt me, but his excuses did not matter anymore. I picked up my phone right there in front of him. He asked what I was doing. I told him I was calling his mother. His eyes went wide and he sat up quickly. He begged me not to, said we could handle this privately, said it did not need to involve his family. I reminded him that he made it involve his family when he announced at dinner that I could not give him a child, when he let them all believe I was broken, when he accepted their sympathy and let them comfort him while I sat there humiliated. Now, they were going to know the truth. I dialed his mother's number. She answered on the 3rd ring with her usual cheerful voice, asking how I was doing. I did not bother with small talk. I told her I had some information to share with her about why we were not having a baby yet. She went quiet, probably expecting me to tell her about some medical problem with my body, some defect that confirmed what she already believed about me. Instead, I told her that I got tested 3 weeks ago, that my results came back completely normal, that there was nothing wrong with my reproductive system, that I was perfectly capable of having children. She started to say something, but I kept talking. I told her that my husband finally got tested this week, that his results just came back, that he has severe male factor infertility, that his sperm count is extremely low, that natural conception is nearly impossible because of his condition, that it is genetic and has nothing to do with me. The silence on the other end of the phone was long and heavy. I could hear her breathing, but she was not saying anything. My husband was sitting on the bed with his head in his hands, looking like he wanted to die. I asked his mother if she remembered the dinner a few weeks ago, when she nodded proudly and said some women just are not built for having children. When she patted his hand and comforted him. When she let everyone at that table believe I was defective. She finally spoke, and her voice was small and embarrassed. She said she did not know. She said he told her it was me. She said she was just going by what her son said. I told her that her son lied, that he blamed me for 2 years to hide his own problems, that he let me believe I was broken, that he refused to get tested because he was scared of the truth, that he sacrificed my dignity to protect his ego. She asked to speak to him. I handed him the phone, walked out of the room so I did not have to hear their conversation. I could hear his voice through the door, quiet and ashamed. I could not make out the words, but I could hear the tone. He was trying to explain, trying to defend himself, but there was no defense for what he did. No excuse that would make it okay. After about 20 minutes, he came out of the bedroom. His eyes were red from crying. He said his mother was very upset, very disappointed in him, that she wanted to apologize to me, but I told him I did not want to talk to her right now. Over the next few days, I made more phone calls. I called his sister and told her the truth about the test results. She was shocked and apologetic, said she had no idea, said she felt terrible for suggesting adoption like I was the problem. I called his aunt, the one who started the whole conversation at dinner, told her that contrary to what my husband said, I was perfectly capable of having children. Her silence told me she understood the implications. I sent copies of both test results to his father through email, attached a note explaining that for 2 years their son blamed me publicly and privately for something that was his issue, not mine. His father called and apologized, said he was ashamed of how his son handled things, said he was sorry for the comments he made about not giving up hope and fixing me. Word spread through the family quickly after that. Everyone knew the truth now. Everyone knew that my husband lied, that he blamed me to protect himself, that he let his whole family believe I was defective when really it was him. Some family members reached out to apologize. Some sent messages saying they felt terrible about how they treated me. Some admitted they should have questioned him instead of just accepting his word. But many did not reach out at all, just stayed silent, probably too embarrassed about their own behavior to acknowledge it. My husband was humiliated. His mother called him several more times. His sister stopped talking to him for a while. His father sent him a long email about integrity and taking responsibility. The family group chat that was usually active went quiet. Nobody knew what to say. His pride was destroyed. The thing he tried so hard to protect by blaming me was now completely shattered. Everyone knew his secret. Everyone knew his body was the problem. Everyone knew he was infertile. And everyone knew he lied about it for 2 years. I watched him sink into depression over the following weeks. He barely ate, barely left the house except for work, spent most of his time in the bedroom alone. Part of me felt bad for him, felt some sympathy for what he was going through, but then I remembered how he made me feel for 2 years, how he watched me cry over negative pregnancy tests and suggested it was my fault, how he let his family mock me, how he destroyed my self-worth to protect his own, and my sympathy disappeared. He tried to talk to me several times, tried to apologize again, tried to explain that he was dealing with shame and fear and did not know how to handle it, tried to say he loved me and wanted to work through this together. But I was done listening to his excuses, done accepting his apologies, done forgiving him for things that should never have happened in the first place. I told him I wanted a divorce. He begged me to reconsider, said we could do IVF or fertility treatments, said we could still have a family if we worked together, said he would do anything to fix this. But it was not about the baby anymore. It was about respect and trust and basic human decency. Things he did not show me when it mattered. I contacted a divorce lawyer the following week. She listened to my story and looked at the test results I brought with me. She said I had grounds for emotional abuse and that the divorce should be straightforward, since we had no children and no major shared assets. I filed the papers 2 weeks after his test results came back. The process felt surreal, but also liberating. I was finally taking control of my life back after 2 years of being blamed and shamed. When he got served with the divorce papers at work, he called me immediately. His voice was panicked and desperate. He asked if I was serious, if I really wanted to end our marriage over this. I told him it was not about the infertility. It was about the lying, the manipulation, the public humiliation, the way he sacrificed my mental health and dignity to avoid facing his own issues. He asked if we could go to counseling, said he would do whatever it took to save our marriage. But I told him some things cannot be fixed with counseling. Some betrayals are too deep. Some damage is permanent. He made me hate myself for 2 years, made me believe my body was broken, let his entire family treat me like a defective failure. That was not something I could forgive or forget. His family tried to intervene. His mother called and begged me to reconsider. Said her son made mistakes, but he loved me. Said marriages go through hard times and we needed to work through this. I reminded her that she sat at that dinner table and nodded when he said I could not give him children. That she called me not built for motherhood. That she comforted him while I was humiliated. Her silence told me she remembered. His sister sent long text messages about forgiveness and second chances, about how everyone makes mistakes and family is important. But she was not there for all the small comments over 2 years, all the ways he made me feel inadequate, all the nights I cried myself to sleep thinking I was broken. His father tried a different approach, said I had every right to be angry, but maybe I should think about the future. About whether I wanted to start over at my age, whether I would find someone else, whether I was throwing away a marriage over pride. That comment made me furious. This was not about pride. This was about self-respect, about refusing to stay with someone who would rather destroy me than face his own truth. The divorce took 4 months to finalize, 4 months of paperwork and lawyers and dividing up our lives, 4 months of him trying to change my mind, 4 months of his family pressuring me to reconsider. But I never wavered, never doubted my decision. Some of his family members took his side, said I was being too harsh, that everyone makes mistakes, that I should have been more understanding about his shame and fear. But others understood, saw what he did to me, saw how wrong it was. His younger cousin sent me a message saying she was proud of me for leaving, that I deserved better, that what he did was unforgivable. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning in early spring. I walked out of that courthouse feeling lighter than I had in years, free from the weight of blame I had been carrying, free from a man who valued his ego more than my well-being, free from a family that enabled his cruelty. My ex-husband tried to contact me a few times after the divorce, sent emails saying he was sorry and that he understood why I left, said he was getting therapy to work on himself, said he hoped someday I could forgive him. I never responded. There was nothing left to say. Some people asked if I regretted leaving, if I wished we had tried to work it out. The answer was always no. What he did to me was unforgivable. He watched me suffer for 2 years, watched me blame myself, watched me change everything about my life trying to fix a problem that did not exist. And he said nothing, did nothing, just let me drown in shame while protecting his own pride. A person who truly loved me could never do that. His mother eventually apologized properly. Not the weak sorry she gave on the phone, but a real apology. She sent me a letter saying she was wrong to believe him without question, wrong to make those comments about me, wrong to comfort him while I was humiliated. She said she understood why I divorced him and that she did not blame me. I appreciated the letter, but I never responded. The relationship with his family was over along with the marriage. I started therapy after the divorce to work through the emotional damage from those 2 years, to rebuild my self-worth that he destroyed, to learn how to trust again. My therapist helped me understand that what he did was a form of abuse, emotional manipulation and gaslighting that made me doubt my own reality. It took months of work, but slowly I started to feel like myself again. Started to remember who I was before I met him. A year after the divorce, I met someone new, someone kind and honest, who would never dream of treating me the way my ex-husband did. We took things slow, built trust gradually. And when we decided to try for a baby, we both got tested first. Together, like partners should. My results were still perfect. His results were excellent. We got pregnant 3 months later. When I told my family I was expecting, my mother cried happy tears. My sister screamed with joy. My friends threw me a party. And I felt grateful that I left when I did. Grateful that I chose myself. Grateful that I did not waste more years with a man who would sacrifice me to protect himself. My ex-husband heard about my pregnancy through mutual acquaintances. He sent one final email, said he was happy for me, said I deserved it, said he was sorry again. I deleted it without finishing. He did not get to be part of this joy. This new chapter belonged to me and the people who truly loved me, the people who would never make me feel broken.